We're bopping, we're bopping. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Creature Cast, the official console creatures podcast. With me this week is editor extraordinaire Bobby Pachalides, but I guess I should say I'm David Petrangelo. Hello, welcome this week. Bobby, hello, welcome this week. How are you?
Hello. This is a good week to be back.
It's a busy week. It's a busy start to the month. We're less than a full week as of this recording into February, and it's already, as we knew, looking to be a busy, crazy month in terms of the industry and in games. But you know, that it's a good problem to have. It's a good problem to have, but it is pretty hectic. No one's going to be crying for us, but at the same time, it's a lot. It's a lot. So, Bobby, you're working your ass off. So, keep it up, man. You're kicking ass right now.
Oh man, it's just a testament to how good we're doing, I guess. I mean,
yeah.
Lots of opportunities in the mix. We got a couple really cool things happening.
Yeah,
next week.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's worth it.
It is. It is worth it. There's lots of stuff to play, big and small. We'll toss out a couple things this week above some of the stuff that we've been playing. I'll get started this week so we can get things rolling. But I had a couple small things that I've been playing, a couple of older games, and one that's fairly new. I think came out roughly as of today, 2 weeks ago, maybe 10 days ago or so. But that is Lonely Mountains Snow Riders. That is a review that I also have up on the website as well at consolecreatures.com. But this is one that was already on my radar because the first one, if it sounds somewhat familiar, Lonely Mountains Downhill was one that came out, I believe it was 2020, 2021.
Yeah, it was around there.
I'm going to have to pull it up. 2019. There we go. 2019. And that was it's, a very minimalistic looking, and both these games are, presentation, and you are on, like a mountain bike or a BMX bike, depending on how you look at it. I think they're considered, mountain bikes. But you're essentially going from the top of a mountain down to the bottom, trying to find the most efficient way to do it based on time, trying not to crash as many times. You can restart. You have checkpoints. You can play some multiplayer. This is that game, which is also on Game Pass, and this new one is also on Game Pass. Snow Riders is also there too, and on Steam. But now they've taken this to the slopes. It is skiing. You are skiing your way down giant mountains with huge landscapes and jumps and different routes. And it's one of those games that is very easy to understand. Get from the top, make it to the bottom, use the joystick to control, and use the triggers to either pick up some speed a little bit or brake. And that's it. But it's also very hard to master. It is not an easy game. Neither of them are, but they are still a ton of fun. So, Bobby, I don't know if you sort of dabbled at all in the first one or even in this one since it came out, or
I think I reviewed the first one.
First one, yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah, and it has a similar feel, I would say. Like I think it's sort of got this. It's a little bit like the way I put it in the reviews. It feels like it's a little bit of a simulation where if you pick up too much speed and go off too big of a jump or take too big of a fall, you're going to crash. I mean, realistically, someone doing that off of a huge cliff is not going to survive. So neither is your character. But also, you can immediately restart. You go back to the checkpoint you were just at. You can immediately restart the level. Very similar to a Meat Boy or a Celeste sort of feel like that. Very immediate, which makes it much easier and less frustrating to be like, oh, I made that mistake again. Oh, I didn't brake at the right time. It doesn't really punish you in that way. It wants you to keep going and keep trying. And your speed matters. How you go around corners matters. It does something with the camera angle when you're going down, regardless of which mountain or trail it is. Or sometimes you can see way ahead of you. Other times you can see kind of to the side of you, and it gives you hints of different routes you can take or different routes that you want to avoid potentially, depending on how you're approaching that area. All that stuff comes into play that make it feel half sim, half arcadey, right? And the presentation's a little bit arcadey as well. The characters are very minimalistic. They almost look like not Lego characters, but what's the other the Lego with like the bigger characters? They come in bigger blocks, almost like
the Mega Blocks.
Nah, it's not Mega Blocks. It's similar. I'm gonna look it up. It reminds the way that the characters look. Large Lego characters. I can't remember what they're called.
That's what they would be, right? No,
I guess they're usually for younger kids because it doesn't take a lot to build them. play something, something like that. Anyways, someone's gonna know what they're called.
Someone can tell us, but like
someone can tell us. That's what the characters look like. They don't have any facial expressions. They're just sort of blocks. You can customize your skis. You can customize your outfit.
Right.
You can unlock new stuff, things like that. But really, the beauty of the game, as far as visually goes, is the environment around you, which is the most important part. I think the game has like this really cool like depth of field to it, and sort of realistic, snow effects and lighting and all those kinds of things. The snow, depending on the depth and if there's ice and things like that, all feels different. And then it's like you can see way into the distance of things. A lot of it you will end up getting to at some point on your trail and get to the bottom of it, and which is kind of cool because you feel like you can reach those areas. Yeah. But a lot of it is just like a really vast, massive background that it just makes the game more beautiful. And I put in the review, like when I started a new trail, which there are, if I do the math right, there's just over 24 or roughly 24 of them, which is a lot on launch. Yeah. And that's just single player. Then you can play multiplayer and things like that as well. When I started a new one, you can just sit there. It doesn't automatically start you until you press a button. Your character just sits at the top of the mountain. And I just sort of looked at the landscape around me because it's so well done. When you get really close to things, it's a little bit blocky and it's a little bit more like a Lego piece, for example.
Yeah, but that's kind of like how the series always has been. So like,
it's the way the other one's been. It's the way this is, and it is not a knock on it at all. It's actually a testament to how like this art design and the aesthetic really works. Yeah, there's a great mix of like childlike nature to it, but also realism, and that's also the way the game feels as well. So basically, that's what it is. You go from the top of the mountain to the bottom. It gives you goals like reach it with a certain amount of time, reach it with a certain amount of time without crashing, let's say 8 times or less than 10 times or something. And those will give you little points and sort of currency within the game that allows you to unlock customizable stuff. Every character, every piece of equipment is just aesthetic. Like it's really just for look. So when you take the game online, which I did and got my butt kicked, it's about just your skill and how you actually traverse things. It's not about what equipment you have or what gear you've unlocked, which is really nice. And you can play with other friends and you can do mountains together and just explore without worrying about points or timing or crashes. And you can kind of just get a feel for the mountains, or you can do a multiplayer with, I believe it's 6 players, and you compete and see who gets to the bottom the fastest and with less crashes. And there's sort of things tallied up at the end of it. And it's a lot of chaos. I tell you that. It's a lot of chaos, but it's cool and it works. And they released a patch, I believe, as of today, which is when we're recording this on February 6th, or maybe it was yesterday, that had some tweaks and improvements to some of the multiplayer things that I think they heard feedback for. I'm looking on Steam now. It's actually today. So they had a patch out that changed a few things, which is great. So it's been out for just under a couple weeks. It's on Game Pass. It's also on Steam. Regardless of how you play it, I think it's been doing pretty well. So if you want to go on multiplayer and give it a shot after you've, played some single player to kind of get the feel of what the game is, I think it's worth it. It's still a lot of fun. And it's one of those games that isn't rewarding because it gives you this giant amount of items that are so rewarding that, oh, I'm going to be the fastest skier ever. Oh, I'm going to get the tighter turns and land bigger jumps and tricks and stuff. No, what's rewarding is that you get better at this game the more you play. Because you get a better feel for the mountains, you get a better feel for the mechanics and the physics, and you can, if you play the levels enough, you can understand like which trail or which direction is better than this one, or I didn't try this one last time, I'm going to try that one, and you can have all these different options to get down to the bottom of the mountain the fastest and the cleanest, and that's great. I love that. I love that it's sort of like this built-in, reward system that isn't an item. It's the actual experience of playing it. And that doesn't happen too often, I think, with multiplayer games, especially. So it's a lot of fun. Lonely Mountain Snow Riders. I think it's an improvement over the first one. I've already played this just as much, if not more, than the first one. Somehow the skiing just works better or feels better. Part of it could just be like tweaks in the mechanics and everything as well. But it really makes sense that they went this direction. And I think they can do DLC and stuff like they did with the first one, and just give you new places and new ways to ski downhill. It's a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it. I believe I gave it an 8 out of 10 on the site, and I recommend it. Give it a shot on Game Pass if you have it. if you don't, I do think it's worth the price of admission for purchasing it either on Xbox or on Steam. So Lonely Mountains Snow Riders, that's what it's called. So and if you're not in the mood to do anything cold right now because it's really cold outside, just give the first one a shot. The downhill one is also available and still really fun. So
is it on Game Pass though? I can't remember.
It was. I don't know if it is at this moment, but I did play it when it was on Game Pass. That's how I played the first one.
Yeah, I can't remember. I know I have like I said, I reviewed it, so I know that's how I can. I've had it on Switch for a while, but
right.
It should be on Game Pass. I feel like it was never removed. It's one of those games I feel like has always been there, but
I think it has. I do remember when I first got Game Pass, like when I first got my series.
Right now.
Yeah, when I first. Oh, your camera's moving.
Oh no, my camera's moving.
Oh no, your camera's moving on its own. That's so funny.
It was a tracking
shot. I was half
shot.
Expecting someone to come through the door and be like, "Hello," like Steve.
I'm home alone right now.
Hello.
Oh well, I mean, Steve's missing in action.
He's MIA Steve, right? Like, come on.
I don't know what he's doing, but yeah, he's missing.
Steve, I know you're listening, Steve. Let's go. Come on. What do you think this is? You know, like you had one job. He
has one job and he doesn't even show up.
Yeah, like let's go.
Yeah, it is on Game Pass still, actually.
Oh, great. Okay, so both of them are on there. They both have a very similar feel and look, like I said, but give both of them a shot. Maybe one works better for you than the other. There's a lot of.
I think, downhill's definitely my favorite, just because I love biking. So
yeah,
that's kind of where I am. I've never been a big skier, but
me neither.
Yeah, I'll take a bike over skis any day. But the game is fun. I know that I played a little bit of it, but you were the one who reviewed it, so it ended up being pretty cool. And yeah, I'm looking forward to maybe playing it this weekend because I need something to palate cleanse after a crazy week.
There you go. I think it's one of those types of games that is where like it is challenging, and I think there's a couple times where it's like, oh, I'm not going to beat this time, and that's okay because you can actually still complete one of the trails, and if you've gotten enough points from previous ones, or at least you did one of the 3 tasks that it gives you per trail, it'll probably give you enough points eventually to get to the next one and the next one. And they do get more complex, they do get harder, but it never felt overly frustrating. I haven't completed all the check marks, checked all the boxes kind of thing on all the trails, but
right.
But I felt compelled enough to go back and keep trying if I failed on one of them. Like that's a testament to how the gameplay feels and how the game works and everything. And once you've like quote unquote mastered the early stuff, I think the later ones are really good to come back to because there's even more branching opportunities of places to go. And they do get really creative with these. It's not like, oh, here's a few trees and here's a couple like caverns you got to go over a jump over and oop, there's a rock. Like, no, you're in different environments and different climates. Even like there's ones where there's a lot less snow and you have to maneuver over water really quickly or over ice, and those things change your speed and your control, and like it's all really interesting. They keep you guessing. Even on one individual trail, things are different from top to bottom as you go along. And I just found myself going back over and over the course of a few days, over a week, and it's been good. Works amazing on Steam Deck too. So if Steam Deck is one of the ways that you want to play it, no issues whatsoever from start to finish for me. So and that's where I played 90% of it is on that. So
I feel like that's the best way to do it is Steam Deck these days.
It looks great on it, like really good color palette and lighting and those types of things. And if you have an OLED screen, like it pops amazingly well. So Lonely Mountains Snow Riders. And I'm going to follow this up really quickly, Bobby. You can mention a game or two if you want to in a second. I just wanted to mention that the complete opposite of this game in terms of, now I mentioned like, oh, maybe check out Downhill if snow stuff is too cold right now in the winter. I recognize that this is something that people and you and Steve already laughed at me about for playing roughly a year ago. But I went back to play more of Lawn Mowing Simulator.
To each their own, but
but also
I feel like that's something I would probably pull my hair out playing because it just seems like the most like, I don't know, basic game in the world. I mean,
mundane.
PowerWash, not even mundane. It's just like, oh god, like
mundane's too much credit.
Yeah, like it seems like something you'd be punished with in hell. It's just you're not even mowing grass.
It's just
simulating it.
Simulating it. Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean,
yeah.
I'm a PowerWash fan. Like I'll watch PowerWash. Like I like PowerWash Sim, but
right.
Mowing grass, I don't know. I already hate doing it in real life. So
see, I don't. That's the difference, right?
Well, if I had even, landscaping, I would probably like it more. But I have hills and little mountains that I have to climb every time.
That makes a difference. That definitely makes a difference. Yeah.
So
that's what I grew up. That's what I grew up doing, is having a property that you could never. There was so much awkward hills and space because we kind of lived in the middle of nowhere. Close to things, but away from the town. We were sort of on the outskirts, like in the country sort of thing. You would never be able to cut all the grass in one day. Me and my dad would do it for 4 hours each, and it would never get done. But I don't know, like there's something about cutting grass in general. And you know what? I think one of the reasons why I went to it was because the last couple of weeks, at least here in the Toronto area and lots of parts of Canada and Ontario, and honestly part of the States, because there was like a huge cold spell for a few days. I was like, man, like not that I was like had this craving to like cut grass, but I was like, I just need something. Mundane is what comes to mind, but punishing, sure, like you said, and just away from the cold. And I don't know why this is the one that I think it was like, it's already on Game Pass. I played this before. I'm gonna just play it, and I have it on Steam as well, so I can play it there if I wanted to. Like, it's sure, I'll play. And I remember when I got it on Steam, it was like $4 for the game plus the DLC, which I haven't gotten to yet. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. PowerWash Simulator. I tried sometime last year, maybe the year before. I think it was last year for the first time, and for some reason, it didn't work for me the same way. And I don't know why.
I loved it. I mean,
so what is it about that? Like, why? So they're very similar ideas. You have a property or a building, whatever it is. I know PowerWash has all these, added content and stuff, which is really cool. I love how they've done all that. The Final Fantasy stuff, like all that stuff is great, regardless of the setting. What about, like, what is it with that? Is it the, like, this inner need to clean thing? Like, what's the thing?
I mean, the thing is the settings. Like, they had some really cool DLCs. Like, they had the Back to the Future one. They had the Final Fantasy 7 Shinra pack. Like, those are cool ways.
It is really, that is very cool, honestly.
Yeah. So like watching a DeLorean, I mean, like, I know it's pretty mundane, as we're saying, but like it's the DeLorean. And then, you bought Final Fantasy 7, so you're like washing a Buster Sword, you're washing parts of Shinra, you're washing some of the cars that you're washing the bike. It's all the things like I'm familiar with. Whereas like you're just cutting grass.
So does it work for you almost exclusively because of that, or because you just like if they didn't have that content, would the game still work? Right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I think
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, because I mean, like, well, think about it. You're power washing everything, right? So it's like there's that clear progression of like, here's dirt, and then you spray it, and then now it's super.
Now it's all shiny. Yeah,
all shiny, and it's like it's just satisfying.
Yeah, so, I don't know. I didn't play when I did Power Wash. I didn't play any of the extra content thing. I really just booted up, played the first few hours or whatever.
See, that's the thing. I feel like the first couple hours you're just being introduced to everything because you have all these nozzles you got to remember.
Mostly, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Well, like once you learn them, you're like, oh, okay, and then you start breezing through it, and it's like, yep, this is cool.
Yeah, I think the thing is with the I don't know why the lawn mowing thing. There's something about and it's probably a very similar, whether it's conscious or not, when it's you or anybody else playing Power Wash Simulator, which I know has done very, very well, which is awesome.
Yeah.
There's something about the like fine tuning of like knowing that I've done this in a very efficient way. And this is going to sound really ridiculous. And again, feel free to laugh, everybody. It's okay. It's just who I am. I think I'm a pretty good grass cutter. And I think I can do it well. I can do it well in real life. I've been doing it for 20 25 years probably.
Yeah.
I was cutting grass and using machinery I shouldn't have been using basically when I first started. So
which is fair. I mean,
it was out of necessity and out of my dad saying, "Yeah, you want to live here? Okay, you got work to do. Let's go." That was
That's
it.
exactly
You want an
what it is.
allowance? That doesn't exist. You live here. You have to cut the grass.
Yep.
So there's something about that too. And I don't have this big property. I just live in a townhouse and just have this little thing in the back or whatever. So there's something about like bringing me back to when I was younger, and I cut this more elaborate sort of. I don't know. It's really hard to pinpoint what it is, but somehow it works. You have your own little business, just like PowerWash Simulator.
Yep.
You can hire other people to do other things. Like it's a very, very similar feel in that way. All of these like simulator games, or many of them, also feel very like not janky, because it's not like there's a bunch of issues with them. Some are that way, but they're very basic in the way they control. They're very basic in like the menu systems and all that kind of stuff. And somehow for this one, it doesn't bug me when normally it would. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. I don't know.
It's just that maybe you miss the smell of grass. I feel like maybe it's.
I love the smell of cut grass. Don't you love that? I love it.
Yeah, I do. But
yeah, come on.
But like that's basically where I draw the line.
But off of someone else's lawn, not your own.
Yeah, basically, because like grass. I just no.
I don't know. I had to mention it because I was like, here we go again. No, and I remember telling you guys like a year ago, and you were like, what?
No, it's fine. I saw you playing. I'm like, well, this guy's got something going on because he's playing on.
So what is happening in that house right now?
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. Like you're full on dad, like you're simulating dad life, even with your games. And it's like, no, I'm not doing that. I don't know how you do it. Like the most mundane game I could probably say I played recently was Pokemon card game. Like that's as mundane as I'll get. But like,
sure, yeah.
House chores, no, I'm done. I can't do that. Like I barely do them as is. Like I fight with myself to do them.
Well, that's fair. That's totally fair. And a lot of people are like that. But there's obviously a market for these simulator games in a lot. There's so many different kinds. There's one that I got like for free when I bought some other game off of, I don't know if it was Fanatical or something like that, like last year or whatever. And it was like arcade simulator or something. I was like, whoa, great. This sounds awesome. It was, I don't remember actually the exact name, but something along those lines. And it was so friggin' janky and so like even more mundane that it was like, I can't put myself through this because the first several hours are so like not fun, and they're just it doesn't work well. And I think by the point I played that particular game, they were onto the sequel, so they probably didn't really update the first, like a lot of reasons why it didn't work. But Lawn Mowing Simulator somehow. I will stop talking about lawn mowing, people. Sorry.
I mean, yeah, let's do that.
Bobby, there's you got anything on the list you want to mention? New, old, somewhere in between?
So, I mean, let's start with what we're going to do next week. Next week we'll have, what's next week? We have our Avowed review, which is next week, and then following that is our South of Midnight preview, which is basically back to back.
Nice.
So like while I'm dying to talk about those two, I can't. So we can talk about Eternal Strands. I don't know if you've seen what it is or if you've wish listed, but like it's like basically it's like Breath of the Wild meets Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah, that's what I kind of got from seeing it. Is that's what it seems like.
That's exactly what it is. I mean,
that sounds pretty sweet to me. Honestly, it sounds pretty sweet. Now, is it sweet? That's what I want to know.
It is a good first outing by Yellow Brick Studios. I mean, a lot of the talent there created, Dragon Age Origins. Like they're people, who have been around for a while, but now they're independent. So like they have this little independent studio, and their first game launched in January 2025, and it's been pretty positive. I mean, critical reception's been pretty good. Few issues that we can talk about, but basically you play as a weaver, and a weaver has these magical powers. You can control like fire, you can control ice, you have telekinetic powers, you are able to basically, grab items and throw them at enemies. You're able to freeze enemies in place. You're able to burn enemies. It's pretty cool. It's like an advanced version of these powers. So like for an example, as a weaver, you're basically trying to figure out what's going on because the world's been ravaged. Everything's kind of like not apocalyptic, but it's just like it's very barren. There's not much left going on.
Something big has happened.
Something big has happened. It's
Yeah.
called the Surge, and basically it's a cataclysm that kind of ravaged everything. But there's a sealed off area called the Veil, and basically it was never affected. So you break through this barrier with your Weaver friends, and you're trying to figure out what's going on in this place because everything seems normal. And there's big enemies called they're called the Great Foes in the game, but they're also called Arcs. So basically, they're like the Shadow of the Colossus monsters, and
right.
They're everywhere. So you need to use them to start crafting items. You fight them to get pieces of their armor because you need them for your own armor to better yourself. And it's just you're going to it's like I said, it's a mix of Breath of the Wild, a mix of Shadow of the Colossus. So like you have like the stamina bar.
They're everywhere. You say like they're not really treated as like bosses or mini bosses. They're kind of like the enemy, or they're like smaller ones, and then these guys are over them.
There's a mix of both. So you have like cannon fodder enemies. They're terrible.
Sure.
Like in my review, I even mentioned that like they're probably the worst part of the game is that there are these enemies you fight and like they're sponges, like they take a lot of damage. And it takes forever to actually fight them because I don't know what it was with the developers. I don't know how they play tested it, but they're not fun to play like the regular monsters. Like there's like a dozen enemy types in there. There's wolves. There's like these elvish looking things, and like you fight them, and like they can kill you pretty quickly. And the issue is, it's just like no matter how strong you get, no matter what you do, like you have better equipment, you get upgrades and all that. It just feels like they're always either on your level or above you, and like they can wipe you out quickly. And it's just like I don't want to fight them. So my recommendation always was when I'm playing this game is fight them when you need to craft gear because you craft upgrades in this thing. Like you can upgrade your armor, you can upgrade your sword, your arrow. But other than that, if you don't need them, just avoid them, and then you can explore these open area hubs where it's pretty. There's like 3 or 4 main hubs that you go to, and each map you got to find like all these great foes and get what you need from them. So like you're obviously climbing all of them. You're knocking their armor off. You're trying to pull the strands from them because that's kind of like the main goal is you find their strand essence and you pull it so you absorb it, and that's kind of like the whole thing. And you're just using that power to find what's going on in this veiled area. So like it is a cool story. Combat is cool, but it's very basic. Like you can tell a lot of the stuff was created on a budget, which is obviously not a bad thing, but like it kind of starts whittling away the experience about halfway through. Because like
it feels too much of the same. Yeah, it
does, but it's not a bad thing. Like the combat's it's commendable. Like I do like it. It's fun, but not the way it's been delivered to the player. It's just like it's cool, but like the enemies, like I said, they're too spongy. Like they're not worth fighting. The only time the combat's really singing is when you're climbing these monsters and you're trying to figure out like their attack pattern, and you're clinging for your life while they're trying to throw you off, and it's just like, well, that's the fun part.
I mean, I kind of wish it's a very cool idea in the other games is that it takes ideas from, right? Like that's
it is probably the only game outside of Shadow of the Colossus that uses that mechanic well, I feel.
Right.
But like I said, ultimately, I think this game would have been a little bit better if there were no like cannon enemies, no cannon fodder enemies. It's just like you're in this place, you're exploring, and like that there's 5 or 6 of these massive enemies you have to overwhelm and encounter, and take what you need from them. So I feel like that probably would have saved the game if there was just like there was less busy work, less crafting, less fighting, and just more here's the world, here's what happened, let's have the player figure out what's going on with like lore dumps and stuff like that. And coincidentally, the story and the lore are pretty good. The only problem is
That's good.
you take about 4 or 5 hours, I'd say, until things start really picking up. So like the first half of the game's pretty boring, but it's fine. I understand. It's a
That's a
small
long
game.
time though. Like it is.
It's a short game. It's about 12, 15 hours, right? But
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
it's shorter, but
really,
like,
yeah.
I mean, it's a great little like it's a palate cleanser for like if you don't want to play. Like for example, like I was playing Dragon Age at the same time, and like I would pause that game and I'd come to this and I'd play this for a couple hours, and it's just okay. I don't have to worry too much about story, all my stats. It's just like you have this character, you get the equipment, you level up, and you move on, and it's
Right.
simple. I like that about this game. But yeah,
I mean that sort of those sort of like mid-level games are the things that I think we've talked about before, where it's like we have less and less of those, and it doesn't mean that that's the only thing we need, but it's sometimes that's nice. That's what
but it's a nice change.
Yeah, you can't just have either a really small game or all these massive 50-hour games. Sometimes those ones in between like that are exactly what you need, regardless of what kind of game it is, regardless of the genre and stuff. But this feels like one of those where there was tons of them on, the PS2 era or 360 and stuff like that's. Yeah, there was a lot of crap too that were in that level, and I think that's why a lot of them went away. But like, there's definitely lots of gems and ones that probably we played most. I would say I probably played most of that kind of stuff at that time. It was mostly these sort of mid-level things, and that's where I have most of my memories probably with those consoles. So to have a little bit more of that and have these sort of mid-level indies and styles of game and genre and stuff, I like that. That's good to know.
It's a perfect, like, you could basically play for a week and then move on, and like I love that. I feel like
cool.
There are still games I'm playing like 3 or 4 weeks later, and it's like I'm ready to move on. But Eternal Strands it's perfect. Like it's just like a little bite-sized thing. You have some cool bosses, you have some cool story, and then you move on. And it's a good first outing from Yellow Brick Studios, and like I really hope to see what they do with like a potential follow-up, or I'm hoping there's a second game. I feel like there is a good base here. But
that's good. That's good to know. Yeah, there's enough there to sort of build upon it instead of just moving on to completely different title.
100%. I feel like there is like like I said, like the mechanics are really solid. It's just there's small things that I feel like a sequel could probably fine tune and make better, right? Because these are people who worked on some of the best games from BioWare, right? So
yeah, which feels like that's what a lot of people want right now is that classic BioWare. So yeah, that's good to know. Cool. That's a little even more on my radar now that we talked about it. So it's actually this reminds me of one of the other games I wanted to mention. I'll mention it briefly, but because it sort of goes into the same category where you're saying it's sort of a little bit of palate cleanser, a little bit of a mid-level type of feel to it and stuff. And I don't remember. I'm gonna have to look it up to see who may or may not have played this. I mean, I can always just ask you, but at the same time. But I picked up and it's a pretty new game. I think it came out towards the second half of last year, and a franchise or at least group of games that I really like. You've played a few of the SteamWorld games, I think. So I mentioned in an article that I wrote towards the end of last year as well that SteamWorld Dig 2 was one of the best games that I played last year, and I just picked up off a whim because I really liked the first one. Got it for a super good deal on Steam. It's great, and it's very bite-sized. It's very cool. Improves on upon the first one in pretty much every single way. And then I saw that SteamWorld Heist 2 was on sale during the holidays, this past holidays, and I was like, "Ooh, I should pull the trigger." I never played the first one, but I hear it's great. And then I saw some reviews of the second one. I don't remember if we reviewed it or not, or if you said that you played it or whatever. But I could have sworn someone said that. It. Yeah, I think you did.
I did. Yeah, in August.
Okay, yeah. So there you go. So it was sort of like just on the second half of the year, late summer, early fall. So I picked it up. I saw it on a crazy. It was like $15 or something. I was like, this game's brand new. Why is it so cheap? I hear it's great.
It's a small game, so I mean it makes sense. But yeah, I know.
But even then, like already, it's only been a couple months. I was just surprised, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna dig into this. This will be a good game. Where like I know the style of game, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna pick it up. and it's probably going to be one of those where I'll play a couple missions on the train to work, play a couple missions on the train back from work. Great. Sounds good to me. And that's pretty much how I played this game. And it did take me, I would say, at least 3 weeks to a month to kind of get through the entire thing because I was playing it in chunks like that.
Yeah.
I really, really like this game. I think it's awesome. The only thing I do think that it holds me back a little bit from saying this is like the best game in this genre or whatever, or best SteamWorld game I've played, is that I think it overstays its welcome a little too much. It's a little too long. You know, at one point I actually thought I was towards the end of the game. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get towards that last mission. I'm gonna get like, you know, maybe a couple missions left, a couple more hours or whatever. And then it went on for another like 10 hours. I was like, Jesus. It introduces new ideas, but I don't think it gives you enough new ideas, or those new enemies in that new area could have been earlier in the game. So, you know, and part of that is because each mission that you go to, like if anyone doesn't know, you're anywhere between 2 to 4 or sometimes 5. Yeah, it depends on which mission you're in. Characters on, you know, a 2D map that is turn-based. You have, you know, guns or melee weapons that you're trying to take loot and also, you know, defeat enemies that are there. And there's various reasons why you're doing this, and the story is pretty good. It's kind of, you know, it's got a lot of lore to it. All the SteamWorld games do, so they've always done a great job with that. Very funny, tongue-in-cheek is just sort of the style that all these games are, which is great. That's all here, even more so in this game because there's so many characters, I think. But some of those missions, especially in the latter half of the game, can last 40 minutes sometimes. And it's because it's turn-based and you want to make sure you're taking your time with your shot, or make sure that you're mapping out your moves properly and thinking a couple moves ahead if possible. Like all that stuff really matters because you want to survive and get the most reward as possible at the end of it. And I like that. I love that idea, but I think because of that, playing for 25-ish hours or something just felt a little bit too long. I think they could have chopped off a few hours off of that. And not because the story wasn't worth it or because I didn't like the characters. It would just, I kind of was ready to, like you said earlier, to kind of just move on, even though I was having a good time, which is kind of a weird thing to say. But yeah, all the SteamWorld games I've played, I played a little bit of, or I played both Dig games. What was the one that's an RTS that came out last year too? SteamWorld
RTS.
Yeah. I can't remember what it's called.
SteamWorld Heist is it's turn-based. That's the only one
that's the one I just played. But SteamWorld Build. That's what it is.
Oh, I don't think I
sort of base building, not RTS. Yeah, you're just sort of base building is kind of what it is. So like, anyways, it's fun. It's good. Again, quirky, cool world that all these games take place in. All these different genres crash together in this. Yeah, it's really
my favorite. But
yeah, me too. I think actually Dig 2 is still my favorite one. And that is significantly shorter. It was like 7 hours or something like that. And I did a lot of the extra stuff. So
Heist's problem was it's just too difficult. I feel that was my thing. It was just very difficult, and like I would get
there's a lot of
pretty quickly, and it's just like, well, that's not what I was trying to do.
The only thing I will say is, yes, it is difficult. They do encourage you to lower difficulties or exit a mission if you feel like you're not going to be successful, and there's no penalty for it. Like it says, lower the difficulty, no big deal. Your rewards will be the same. Leave the mission and go to a different if you want to. You won't lose any progress. Your guys don't need to rest to go to the next mission. Like, I think that's cool to add that in there. Like, at least that's available. But you're right. If you're playing on the normal difficulty, which I did the entire way through, there's a lot of missions that are very hard. Like, and I think you're right. I think too hard at some points. And sometimes you have to get lucky in some of the equipment that you find or that you're able to buy. So if you don't have that equipment that will put you sort of over that edge of really making sure that you can succeed in those really difficult missions, it's tough. It's tough and sometimes a little bit demoralizing, unfortunately. But I kept going back. I played all the way through it. I got into the last area where there's, underwater, if you know the area that I'm talking about, where you're sort of in like a big, huge cave, essentially. It's cool. I love the setting. I just wish it was a few hours earlier into the game, and that's pretty much it. But otherwise, SteamWorld Heist 2 is great. I didn't play the first, but I heard it's an improvement over the first in a lot of ways, so that's great. I think check out the whole franchise if anyone hasn't. And a lot of the time they go on sale. And if you want something that's a little bit shorter, a little bit more action based, and sort of itches that exploration itch that you scratch, that exploration itch that you have, the Dig games, especially 2, in my opinion, are fantastic for that. So,
100%.
Yeah, so that's where I'd sit with those, and that's pretty much it. And then I got a couple of previews coming up. I got a review coming up in the next week. All of that stuff will happen between this date, which is the first week of February, into the second. We got that. You said we got some Avowed stuff coming, and what else? I feel like I missed something. What else was it?
South of Midnight, and then...
South of Midnight. That's it. And then more and more.
There's more. It's going to be a crazy February.
That's just what we can say right now. That's pretty much it.
Oh, 100%. I feel like that's kind of the thing. We can't really discuss what we're doing, but like that's fine. I mean, it'll be worth it because I know that we're going above and beyond with what we're going to be talking about and what we're going to be featuring. And we've got a couple really cool interviews lined up that will go live next week. But yeah, I mean, I Steve did a really good job on this interview. I actually just listened to it earlier this week, and it's pretty informative. So I feel like fans are gonna want to check out this interview for this particular game.
Just mentioning it, he got me hyped, and that's something. Because if I have to sit there and listen to Steve, I need some incentive, man. Like I gotta,
Well, the incentive is you're gonna be hearing about a really cool game that's coming out very soon, and. Yeah, I can't wait to hear what everyone thinks about this game because it's been a long time coming. I know we've been talking about this game for years at this point. We've talked to the developers, we've talked to the community, and everyone's like, "Yeah, day one." So I know I'm excited.
Me too. We can't talk about it at this exact moment, but it's coming soon. Look for that at consolecreatures.com. Keep it tuned here to the Creature Cast at the Creature Cast across your podcast app. PlayStation Generation as well. Check out our buddies there as they continue to kick ass and take names in the world of PlayStation, and lots of gameplay videos, reviews, things like that up on the YouTube channel. And anything I missed, Bobby, with social media, I guess.
No, just keep plugging away at you or Bluesky. Like we have kind of made the transition over. It's kind of the main platform.
It's the primary place.
We've had a lot of good feedback there. The community's been pretty welcoming. I mean, that's kind of what I wanted.
It's a great place for the gaming community at the moment. It's been good for a lot of indies as well, developers, gaming journalists. Like it's a really cool place that's right now obviously growing massively and thriving, and
it feels like what it needs to be. I feel like it's the website where it's Twitter before all the
shit hit the fan.
Before the cesspool expanded.
It feels like when Twitter was what we remember wanting it to be. Like that's really what it feels like right now. Let's all just cross our fingers it's going to stay that way, but things change.
I mean, even if it doesn't, we'll find something else. But like,
we'll find something else.
I'm happy with it.
Exactly. And then of course, I'm mentioning communities and stuff. I keep forgetting to mention at the top of the show too. We have a Discord as well. Console Creatures has a Discord channel as well where we can talk about games. You can find all the articles that we're writing and reviews. All the videos get posted there as well. And then we have all these sections for Nintendo and Xbox and general chats and you can share your gaming IDs and all these types of things. So Discord, you can find us Console Creatures and join us there. All of the writers, everyone that's on our show and PlayStation Generation, everyone that you've heard, we're all on there. So if you want to reach us too, that's a great way to do it. There or on Bluesky, I'm at Dave Petro, you are B Pashalitis, and consolecreatures.com. And that's pretty much it, everybody. Look forward to some great stuff. We will talk to everybody soon. And thanks for joining us. Talk to you next time. Ciao. Goodbye.
Yep, bye-bye.